Welcome to Think Tech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidel.
And I'm Mildred Schwartz.
In our show this time, we'll cover the 4th Asia-Pacific Clean Energy Summit at the Convention Center on August 13th through 15th, 2012.
Energy players came from far and wide to share and explore developments and technologies in clean energy and to rub shoulders.
We were welcomed by Governor Neil Abercrombie, Kurt Tong of the U.S. Department of State, Senator Dan Inouye, Hideo Hato of the New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization, and Thomas Hicks of the Navy Department. These presentations were moderated by Mark Glick of the State Energy Office.
During the recent Asia-Pacific Economic Conference that was held here in Hawaii last year, we posited ourselves here in Hawaii as the anchor of the Asia-Pacific region. Many people in the past have thought of Hawaii as a bridge. Well, you walk over a bridge. You don't necessarily spend any time or land on a bridge and stay on a bridge. You walk over a bridge. You pass through the bridge. The anchor, however, it puts you into a position to give you a solid capacity and foundation on your journey. And that's what Hawaii is, an anchor of the Asia-Pacific region.
I believe some of us are old enough to remember the Arab oil embargo in the 1970s. At that time, the oil prices went up in excess of 400% in 6 months. And as you know, we had rationing. People were lined up, some with shotguns, to maintain their position. But by the late 1980s, about 10 years later, oil prices returned to something that was considered reasonable. And at that point, our national zeal to reduce dependence on foreign oil somehow disappeared.
The APEC agenda, as Mark mentioned, really accomplished a lot on the clean energy front. Just to mention some of those accomplishments, we decided at APEC last year to cut all tariffs on clean energy technologies and environmental goods and services to 5% or less by 2015. We decided to rationalize and phase out fossil fuel subsidies that result in encouraging wasteful consumption. And we aim to reduce APEC's aggregate energy intensity by 45% by 2015. So not only is this an important meeting which you all are participating in, but you're actually doing it in a historic place.
There are 400 or more smart grid projects being carried out around the world. These projects have different characteristics to meet their respective requirements or objectives, such as to upgrade the aging grid networks, to improve the integration of variable renewable energies by installing storage batteries, to control the electricity supply in accordance with customer power consumption by using information technologies such as automated meter systems.
We need lots of fuel. The ships and aircraft that we have today, the ones that we're bringing online are largely the ones we're going to have for the next 20, 30, in some cases 40 years. So the 285 ships we have today, the 3,700 aircraft that comprise the fleet, they use 30 million barrels of fuel annually. We depend on these fuels, fossil fuels and foreign fossil fuels far too much. The Department of Navy spends $4 to $5 billion to power the fleet every year. For every dollar increase in the price per barrel of fuel, it's a $30 million bill to the Navy.
We heard from a panel on innovative approaches to solar and wind energy, moderated by Kekoa Kaluhiva of First Wind.
On an island, of course, that does not exist. So there's no safety net of neighbors that the power can be drawn from if there's a deficit, or a place where the power can flow off if there's an overage for a short period of time. On an island, the grid operator is on his own. He has to make that match all by himself with no backup. So just to show this graphically, You can see the red represents generators, the blue represents customers. This would be like the total customer load for the grid. And the grid load goes up and it goes down, but mostly it goes up as the day progresses, and then into the evening it comes back down. But it does go up and down, and the generators that are controlled by the grid operator need to carefully balance that so that the voltage and the frequency are good. You can see what happens. This yellow area, yellow is bad. That's what happens when there's not a balance. So for example, let's say a cloud goes over and a solar project's output drops. Well, the grid operator needs to operate other power plants to bring the generation back up to close the gap as quickly as possible.
We heard from a panel on Smart Grid Technologies, moderated by Jay Griffin of the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, HNEI.
We heard a lot of talk about some of the smart grid demonstration work going on here in the state of Hawaii, and our panel this morning is going to go into a fair amount more detail on the specifics of those projects that are going on. I think how they'll be, the different technologies that are being used, how they're going to help the state here integrate renewable energy, but also deal with some of the more common utility challenges, improving reliability, improving customer experiences, helping people save energy. So we're going to run through the whole range of what those projects are doing. And our panel this morning, first up we're going to have Mark Matsuura from Hawaiian Electric Company. He's going to be giving a broader overview of smart grid technology and some of the overall strategy for the company, followed by Leon Roos, who's now with the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute. He'll be talking a little bit more specifically on projects, the projects going on Maui, both the Department of Energy and a little bit on the NEDO-funded project. Fumitoshi Frankie Mora from Hitachi Company will be our third speaker, and he'll be going in more detail on the Japan-US Island Grid project. Following him, we'll be going over to the Garden Island. Mike Yamane is Chief of Operations for Kauai Island Utility Cooperative, and he'll be talking about their AMI project going on. And finally, last but not least, Clay Collier from Honeywell will be talking about their commercial demand response technology that they've developed and have been using throughout the U.S., as well as a pilot project here with Hawaiian Electric.
We heard from a panel on Innovative Solutions in the Testbed, moderated by Jeff Michalina of Blue Planet Foundation.
Some of the key challenges we are facing are how do we bring a comprehensive network of stakeholders who can provide a seamless solution to the customer. For instance, in the electric vehicle space, one of the key drivers to making the adoption of electric vehicles work is to provide a readily available way to charge the vehicles at any place the customer chooses to go. As a company, AeroVironment is focused on residential infrastructure as a fundamental building block. And within the last 12 months, we have done at least 10,000 installations across various homes. And within the last 1 year, doing that, going to every home and meeting with the customer, assessing their needs, figuring out what's happening in their garage, and providing them a solution that is cost-effective as well as technologically superior, requires many steps to be built and on the go. As we figured out, we had to partner with a community of stakeholders, whether it is the municipalities that have a jurisdiction on what works and what doesn't, the permitting requirements. So we have gotten tremendous education internally on what we need to do to make some of these technologies stick.
We heard from a panel on Project and Testbed Opportunities in Hawaii, moderated by Greg Barber of the Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii Authority, NELHA.
Panasonic, as I said, is nearing its 100-year anniversary in 2018, and I think what's interesting from one of the largest technology companies and electronic companies in the world is they have declared publicly that they will be the #1 green innovation company by their 100th anniversary in 2018. We're less about TVs and phones and other electronics, as most people think about Panasonic in the United States. and now more about renewable energy and really not product but solutions. Most people think about Panasonic and they want to know about our panel or our efficiency. Truth be told, we don't sell a lot of panels. That doesn't mean we don't produce them, but it's not our focus. Our focus is energy, our focus is energy solutions, and we work across that continuum, whether it be wind, biomass, solar, and hopefully some of the new technologies that we have seen today. We're really excited about Hawaii, as we heard earlier this morning in the keynote addresses. Japan and Hawaii have many parallels, and our focus on those are very close. So being here is a must for us. We like the environment for all the reasons we've heard earlier. Storage is a big focus. We are the largest battery producer in the world, and bringing storage technology into renewable energy across platforms is something that we are very focused on.
We heard from a panel on energy security challenges with renewables, moderated by Juan Torres of Sandia National Laboratories.
This is a 2-year, 3-flight campaign jointly funded program. The first test we did in April and May of this last year, of 2012, up in Minnesota. It was the new CARSR radar that's up there, new long-range radar. What we're doing through a SLEP program is they're upgrading all the ARSR 1s, 2s, and 3s to a CARSR to make it more like, as best as you can with the parts that are out there, it's more like the ARSR 4, which is our other primary long-range radar, mostly stationed around the borders of the country. We're looking at an ASR 11 down in Texas here in October. And then we're going to be looking at the ARSR 4 in Texas again next April. As I mentioned before, we're doing the systems analysis impact, and program goals are specific. Characterize the impact of the turbines on those 3 NAS radars, assess mature industry proposed mitigation technologies, and increase the understanding and developing for future. So we want to be able to provide a database for universities and industry to actually utilize so that they can help solve the problem in the future.
We heard from a panel on clean energy as the economic growth engine, moderated by Robbie Aum of Hawaiian Electric.
This conference for us is not just a conference. It's, in a lot of instances, a culmination of a partnership, an opportunity to launch initiatives, and actually an opportunity for us to talk with our now friends and business partners throughout the Asia-Pacific region. We have existing partnerships with Japan, China, and Korea, especially in the area of smart grid, and we're in the process of developing additional agreements with Taiwan and other countries. We're also leading in distributed generation, and maybe Robbie can help me with last year's data, but what I have here is there were 30 distributed generation systems with a total capacity of 166 kilowatts in 2005. In 2010 alone, there were 2,188 systems installed with a total capacity of 12 megawatts, and there's no doubt that 2011 and 2012 will have the numbers come in much, much higher. These numbers are growing, to say the least, at a nonlinear pace. We're now the national leader in solar roofs per capita. Solar PV installations now account for 20% of all new construction jobs. This is creating great opportunities, but great challenges. Challenges in terms of integrating unprecedented percentages of intermittent energy into our grid, and opportunities in terms of showing the world how this can be done while maintaining power reliability.
We heard from a panel on expanding renewable energy penetration via undersea transmission of clean energy as the economic growth engine, moderated by Jerry Sumida of Carl Smith Ball.
For 100 years, we've developed electric systems that are basically utility controlled. And they're utility controlled with the mindset that everything is used and useful. And once it's used and useful, you can't take it out. The electric industry is the only industry, it is the only business that you cannot use technical obsolescence. If it's in service and it's used, it has to stay in service and be used. No other industry has that protocol around it. As a result of that, very little changes, and we can talk all about the reasons why and so forth, but that's a principle that's been around since the 30s. It's still there today. So you cannot technologically obsolete like you can in telephone. But the changes that are moving ahead to us, to the future, is that we're moving to a future where the customer is driving it. the one that uses electricity wants to step in and do something with it. IBM and others have done a huge amount of studies on the electric industry, and you compare it to the telecom, to television, almost any industry, and you can see that we're in the midst of a change, and the change is being driven by the people. They want to control, they want to have more use, they want to have more say, they want to control their devices and so forth. And if you look around all the devices being created and invented, there's a plethora of them that people can use and do all these things and take advantage, more control of their energy future. And these are the same forces that drove many, many industries. And it typically takes about 25 years for an industry to change.
And so it went, with important panels, presentations, and discussions for 3 days, exploring the state of the industry in Hawaii and globally, right from the horse's mouth.
All in all, the summit was a further confirmation of the importance and vitality of Hawaii as a rich source of renewable energy and a global laboratory for the development of clean energy resources.
Meeting a lot of people that are in the industry and moving things along and trying to find our where the future lies for us.
I'm Harold Sanborn. I'm with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and we do a lot of work in energy security, fuels, and that's why we're talking to Robert and his company about some of the fuels work that they're doing.
Tariq Abdallah, I work with Harold with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Certainly happy to be engaged in the dynamic energy communities that are taking place here in Hawaii.
I'm with the United States Army. I'm the science advisor to the Commanding General for the U.S. Army Pacific. We've been in partnership with GM for the past 7 years, advancing automotive technology. We are stationed out of Detroit, which is the mecca of the automotive world. So part of our program over the past year is to bring the hydrogen vehicles out here with the hydrogen infrastructure.
We had a breakout session this morning. The program is awesome. And we had an incredible number of questions, almost a half an hour of questions. I was really excited.
Nelha's middle name is Energy.
Yeah, you know, so going forward, most of the land that we have available, the remaining 250 acres, is up at the top of the park, which has been designated for renewable energy development. So for us, that's really our target market.
So this is the plug-in Prius. It is in production. This is the production version of it. We've been selling it since March. It's a great car. It's going to get you 11 miles, rated by the EPA in electric, and then after that, it turns back into being a Prius. So to me, I think it's a win-win situation. So for most of our customers out there, they're actually buying two vehicles per se. So you're getting an EV or you're getting a hybrid, right? So if I drive within range, I have an EV. If I go outside the range on the weekends, I want to go to Waiwa, go eat some Dongyangs, meet June or something like that, I got myself a hybrid.
Actually, I'm moderating a panel tomorrow, and I'm trying to catch as many of the ones of interest to the energy conservation and efficiency side of things as I can today. So, and it's really good. This is getting better every year. The technology starts to narrow down, and people are talking about real things instead of, you know, pie in the sky things.
Oh, Hawaii is just this is where it's happening. There's a lot of talk in a lot of places, but it's actually happening here.
It's important that we participate and encourage gatherings like this so we can keep up, stay in touch, compare notes, and show the world our continuing commitment and leadership in clean energy.
Well, the question of what impact would the summit have and how would it be perceived, you know, outside of Hawaii, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, quite frankly, I would say, I used the word beforehand, that it's become iconic. I think it really has been iconic. I think it has put Hawaii in the map in a different way. And everybody has always known in, I think, recent decades that Hawaii has a tremendous amount of indigenous resources, geothermal, wind, solar, even hopefully OTEC, which goes way back, wave, and ocean energy. And I think that just as people think of nice beaches, a whole bunch of other people think of these kinds of initiatives that the state has done. And with the state in the special and unique partnership that I mentioned with the DOE, so the Clean Energy Initiative, which is a combination of it's a public-private partnership in the best sense of the word, that has become known. So this is not something that is taken as a nice trip to someplace nice. This is taken as, you know, let's see what's out there and what we know that they don't know and what they know that we need to know about. And that has put Hawaii on the map in a very, very good way, and now we've just got to maintain and expand that.
Let's be sure to do it again next year, right here in Hawaii, and to cover it again right here on ThinkTech on OC16.
And now, Jay, let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech's 4 to 5 p.m. drive time radio series on KGU 760 AM continues this week. Tune in to 760 AM Wednesdays for Tech with me, Jay Fidel, Thursdays for Asia in Review with David Day. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech Radio, and maybe you'll even get to see Mildred Schwartz.
On September 27th, the Hawaii Venture Capital Association and ThinkTech will present a luncheon panel program called The Emerging Energy Also-Rans. Where will they fit? Sign up for these programs on hvca.org.
And now, here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation. Have the basic rules around startups changed? Or are we still in pretty much the same set of parameters that we were in through the first 10 years of the millennia?
Well, no, the rules haven't changed. Companies still need to be properly organized. They need to be properly funded. The worst thing you can do is have a startup that's undercapitalized. That will doom it to failure. There are some encouraging things happening, like the crowdfunding and
Steve
Kickstarter.
Case spoke of that, yeah.
These are great for small projects, but if you're trying to do something bold and innovative, that's when you really have to be very careful, especially about how you organize yourself as a business. And that requires a good chunk of change for legal fees.
So this optimism we've had, it's an optimism at a certain level. It's an optimism about a certain spark you see maybe in young startup entrepreneurs. But you still have to do the regular things.
Well, I think the other thing is that, there are a lot of global secular trends that reflect big problems where the need for big solutions are apparent. Of course, energy is one, but there's the food security issue. There are a host of things where accomplishing anything means butting up against the government and regulatory process. And the bureaucracy is not incented in any way, shape, or form to make that process easy.
In our society, you have to deal with the government. And the government is not, if the government isn't helping you, if the government is handing you a bureaucratic delay or, an impossible result, you're stuck.
Well, I think there has to be some sort of judgment call that distinguishes between an entrepreneur who is trying to do something new and innovative versus a large corporation that's just going about their regular business. And there's the problem.
Yeah.
How do you lower the regulatory threshold, still protect those that need to be protected, but give somebody that doesn't have a few extra $1 billion to spend the opportunity to try something new that could change the world.
A lot of people recognize this. You know, just as a lot of people recognize that the securities laws were too onerous. And now it's changing, a little bit anyway. So maybe the same process will happen here. You know, that people, having recognized that the bureaucracy is really a downer, that they will find a way to streamline the bureaucracy. And that some magic recipe, some amazing technique will pop up in some state somewhere, and people will copy that, and then we'll be able to deal with it. But the point is that right now, it's unchanged.
Companies that have 200 to 500 people started out with 4 or 5. And so it's bridging that gap and or creating the bridge that government needs to really think about. Because all those regulations were designed for the big oil companies and the huge DuPonts and the chemical companies, and not the, the 5-person entrepreneurial shop.
Well, this is why I'm so concerned about the fact that you're not running for president. Next time around, okay, Bill?
Next time.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of Think Tech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Thanks to the Scheidler Family Foundation, which supports a number of educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including Think Tech.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates MECO on Maui and Hilco on the Big Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company, and CEO of CBI Polymers, a tech company in Hawaii.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Okay, Mildred, that wraps up this week's edition of Think Tech. Remember, you can watch Think Tech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Mildred does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
You bet, Jay. For lots more Think Tech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on Think Tech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a sponsor or a volunteer and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidel. Thanks so much for joining us on Think Tech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Mildred Schwartz. Aloha, everyone.